So how's everybody doing out there in YouTube land and on the Deadpit message boards? I am Uncle Bill. I'm one half of Deadpit Radio. I guess it's not really one half anymore. We kind of expanded and have taken on a whole bunch of new people. But if you're not familiar with the site or what it is we do, we're a horror talk radio show, and the very first and best horror talk radio show. We got interviews with some of the best horror guests out there. We've got Dee Wallace up right now. It's going to be talking about Cujo and E.T. and The Howling and all the movies that everybody loves from her. So definitely check that out. She's a really, really nice woman, and it was a very, very good interview. So go over to deadpit.com. You can download it anytime. It can be streamed off the site. It's on demand. I mean, we're one of the only sites that I know that does not make you pay and actually has quality programming that you can listen to. There's a lot of sites out there. A lot of sites do podcasts. Very few do interviews, and even fewer have actual quality interviews on a regular basis, but we're one of them. And we got the big Friday the 13th show coming up soon. We've got a Friday the 13th fan commentary that we're doing over Friday 5, and that got me to thinking, which is why I'm kind of doing this Diary of the Dead Pit on favorite film franchises. What is some of my favorite film franchises? In honor of Friday the 13th, I'm going to do that next week. But this week, it's about time to talk about one that everyone who grew up in the 80s grew up with, and that is A Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven created one of the best boogeymen in the entire world of horror with Freddy Krueger, played by Robert Englund. One of the very few slasher films. It wasn't really a slasher film, but it did have all those elements that actually had a killer in it that was memorable beyond wearing a mask. I mean, Robert Englund's one of the only guys that gets recognized completely today. Even though he wore a ton of latex, he was that character. Now, Kane Hodder has a right to stake for Jason, but let's face it, I mean, there's a lot of people that played Jason before him and some people that played him after. If you were huge and, if you were a stuntman, you could play that role. But not taking anything away from him, I'm just saying that was a masked role. Nobody had to know who it was. Same goes with Michael Myers. There's very few icons that people can look at and recognize. And Freddy Krueger was definitely one of them. So let's go. We're going to go through the series. I'm going to take you through the series. There's some that I don't have because I didn't buy them. I didn't want to buy them. Some of them are really bad, but we'll talk about the bad. First, let's talk about the good, though. I had to get the Infinifilm version of A Nightmare on Elm Street because it's got the fact track on it that they have, and it's got the interactive features that pop up. I don't know why I've always been a big fan of Infinifilm, though. I like the interactive nature, being able to click on whatever you want to. It kind of gets to my ADD and stuff, but it's got the Never Sleep Again making of on it. And A Nightmare on Elm Street was a combination of a couple of things to me. When I look at it, it was like Wes Craven made Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes, and I think this was his segue to try to transition really into like mainstream horror films, because that was getting huge with the Friday the 13th franchise, to kind of make the established horror film, and with a body count type of film. And this was kind of a combination of his previous efforts in exploitation, because with this one he's got a child molester, even though in the film they never call him a child molester, because at the time that the film was made, Craven said that there'd been a huge child molestation scandal, and he thought it would be in bad taste to have Freddy Krueger be a child molester, and he thought it would cause people to have like a backlash against the film. So he didn't do that. He just called him a child murderer in the film, although it's always kind of there, and you can always tell. People assume that a lot about it. So about a child killer, Freddy Krueger, who is burned alive by a group of angry parents, comes back. It's kind of like a burnt-up zombie that can attack you in your dreams, and he can turn your dreams into whatever he wants to. If you fall asleep and you die in real life. And of course, Heather Langenkamp is Nancy in the film. She's like one of the main actresses, one of the main daughters of one of the women that burned Krueger alive. And John Saxon is the sheriff, plays the sheriff role very good. He plays it in a lot of films. Black Christmas was another one. And Johnny Depp's his first film role, and of course he's in it. There's a whole bunch of other people in the supporting cast. Um, a guy that played Nick Garcia, something Garcia, and then Amanda Weiss, and quite a few other people round out the film. Of course, Robert Englund. It was, like I said, a combination of exploitation films and mainstream filmmaking, and a great premise around the film, and a great killer, which is what people don't realize now, is that it had a plot, it had good characters, and it had a great killer, even though most people just try to do the later, it doesn't work out that well. Probably most memorable to me for a couple of reasons. Number one's the opening scene where Amanda Wyeth's character is split open in and around the stomach and the sternum by the razor glove, which was introduced in the film. But you can't see anything. All you see is the invisible entity kind of flinging her around the room back and forth. And the other thing that I always remember is the body dragging scene where Heather Langenkamp plays Nancy is having a dream in her English class or literature class, and she walks out and meets the hall monitor, and she sees Amanda Weiss, who is her friend, being dragged through the hallway of the school, but there's nothing dragging her. It's one of those really creepy, surreal moments that's kind of like a nightmare, which hence the title. So you move on to Jack Shoulders, who we've had on the show. We interviewed Jack Shoulder about this. Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Wow, folks. Let me tell you something. We interviewed him about this, and he didn't seem to bring it up or seem to know that much about it, other than it was coincidental. But Freddy's Revenge, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, has some huge homosexual, I won't even say undertones. It's like overtones. They're there, okay? It's the story of a kid who moves into a house that's the house, I believe it was the house that Heather Langenkamp was supposed to be in, because he finds her diaries and stuff. And he's slowly starting to realize that he's becoming possessed by Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger's taking over his dreams and therefore taking over him. But in the midst of all this stuff, there's some really weird, like, gym class, latent homosexual stuff going on. And his best friend's this actor was named Robert Russler, who was in Vamp and a couple other films around the 80s. He was huge in the 80s. And he plays like his kind of too close for comfort friend. And it's there. I mean, the whole Freddy thing kind of makes you think, was he trying to make a statement against gays, or is it just that much of a coincidence? You know, that there's his gym teacher is like, he's always walking into him when he's in the shower, and at the end he dies and he gets whipped with like a towel while he's naked. It's just weird. It's a very dark film too. It's not like the ones that would come after it. It's much darker than Part 3 and Part 4. Much less effects. Much truer to the first one, but with just some weird twists and turns in there. And Clu Gulager's in it from Return of the Living Dead, plays the guy's father. I'm trying to remember what the woman's name is. Kim Myers plays the redhead in the film. I always thought she was amazingly hot, and she probably still is. She was doing a couple of conventions. Not my favorite of the series, but probably not as bad as most people would have you believe either. Now this one, and you can see the cover art on these films, really sucks. There's Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. If you want to know what the original cover art was like, check that out in the background. Now that's cover art. This is my favorite film of the series. A lot of people can't believe that because everybody likes the original and stuff, but I'm thinking it's possible that I saw this film in the theaters. I have a very strong affinity for it because I, for some reason, remember it the most. It was the very first film that I actually really got into the Nightmare on Elm Street series on, and it's a fucking awesome film as far as effects go. Big overacting, great characters. It's the story of a girl in it played by I want to say it's Patricia Arquette. I always get the Rosanna and Patricia Arquette mixed up, but she starts to have the dreams, and she checks the Freddy dreams, and she gets checked into a mental ward in this huge asylum where she meets up with all these other people who have these sleep disorders, and they're all being watched over by, oddly enough, a doctor and Heather Langenkamp, who's back, playing Nancy in this film. And they all come to find out that they can control their dreams and get these special dream powers and become the Dream Warriors. And they all have different unique characters. Like one of them's a strong man, the other one's like a badass female character, one's a wizard, one can do gymnastics. It's a weird mix of people, but it's great because basically what they are is just like comic book characters to be picked off by Freddy and to like provide Freddy with some real competition. So you go along in the film and they all get to go to their own specific backdrops, which is perfect. Think about it. Like the nightmares in this one, each one of them is a completely unique location. You know, like one's a wizard's den and the other one's like a... It's perfect for the way it's set up. And the special effects in the film are out of this world. Like there's a marionette scene where a guy, like Freddy turns a guy into a marionette and like with his hands and he's like walking him and all this stuff. So it makes people who see him think that he's asleep because he's just walking around, but he's treating him like a puppet. And this is the one with the big Freddy worm comes up. You always see that in the pictures and the screen captures and stuff. Big Freddy worm tries to digest Patricia Arquette. Just a great film. Perfect for the 80s type sensibility. So we move on though. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which kind of is in the same... This is the Dream Master. It's kind of in the same light as Part 3. It's a very big film. Very effects laden film, but it doesn't quite have all the strong acting that the third film had. I mean, the third film actually had some real, like Lawrence Fishburne was in it, Patricia Arquette was in it, Heather Langenkamp was in it. It had some real great actors and actresses in it that made for a really good film aside from the effects. This movie is mostly for the effects, and it actually introduces Tuesday Night and another character. Oh God, I can't believe I'm going blank on this because try to get these people on the show, and we have had Tuesday Night on the show. Of course, Rennie Harlan directed this one. Rennie Harlan's pretty much notable for making some horrible films, but this one was really, really good. And it was the best-selling film in this franchise. It made the most money out of all the films. Lisa Wilcox is the girl's name, by the way. So, in this one, she's going to school, and she starts to have the dreams and all this stuff. And from what I remember, she has a brother in it and it's kind of the same type of film. Each little person, each character in the film has a separate montage, but somewhere or another you find out that she's connected to, Freddy in the film, and, all of her friends start dropping off around her, and she's trying to tell everybody that, she knows something's going on with this child killing stuff, kind of like a remake of the first film in a way. And the most notable thing about this movie is a couple of scenes, one involving the Roach Motel thing, where one of her friends, Freddy turns her into a roach, and then she kind of crawls into this Roach Motel thing, and he crushes her. That's always one of my favorite effect scenes in any of the movies too. And there's also a big montage scene in the film that's freaking hilarious, where she takes, after all of her friends have been killed, she takes all of their attributes on. Like, she gains all of their powers. Like, one of them was, her brother was like a kung fu guy, and then one of them was really good with like a bodybuilding type. One of them was good with other stuff, and she becomes all these things. And there's a big montage where she's strapping on all their clothes and like his headband and all this shit that they make. It's just classic 80s stuff. You have to have a montage for everything. And I really liked the film. I thought it was a good addition to the series. And now we're going to get on to ones where Freddy was becoming a character in parts 3 and 4. More so in part 4 too. It was getting a little bit ridiculous, but you kick it up a notch in part 5, which is the Dream Child, which is a ridiculous fucking premise anyway, which is that Freddy can get to you because, and Lisa Wilcox is back in this one, and she's pregnant. And she's been taking this medication to keep her from having dreams. So she doesn't know she's pregnant, but she knows something's going on because she starts having the Freddy dreams again. Come to find out, Freddy's taking over the nightmares of her unborn child. The little kid they get in this film is one of the most annoying kids, like 10 times more annoying than Gage was in Pet Sematary or any other child kid is. He's this gaunt looking kid that shows up in the film every now and then. He can't really act, and it's just annoying as shit to watch. And this film is the worst, in my opinion, of the whole friggin' series. I mean, the one that comes after it, Freddy's Dead, is pretty bad. I don't have Freddy's Dead because I just don't give a shit about. I mean, I bought that one because I hadn't seen it in so long, and we were doing a show on some of the worst sequels, and so I wanted to watch it again. And it is the worst sequel in this franchise to me. I mean, there are certain aspects of Freddy's Dead, including like Roseanne Barr and Tom Arnold coming into it, and the bullshit with the other Alice Cooper stuff like that are bad. Now, I'll grant you that. But the Dream Child, not only is it seems rushed, and it's really poorly put together and directed, and a lot of the scenes are really bad too. I mean, there's visual effects in it. They were trying to get away from the practical effects, get more into the visual effects of that late 80s vibe. Horrible film. So Freddy's Dead's bad too. I don't have Freddy's Dead. I don't have A New Nightmare, even though I really do like that one. And A New Nightmare was interesting because it at least attempted to go somewhere else with the films, because Wes Craven was coming back on to direct the film, and he only would direct it if he got to put his own spin on it, and it had pretty much been done to death. After Freddy's Dead, I mean, Jesus Christ. There's not much more you can do after a certain period of time, and Freddy was kind of becoming a joke, so he got really more serious, and the film was kind of like, it was kind of, you could kind of see he was getting where he was going with the Scream things, because it kind of pokes fun at and mocks the horror genre, because everybody in it is like their role in the film. They're the actors and actresses that are actually in the Nightmare on Elm Street films. But what happens is they really start to wake up like the ancient demon that is Freddy Krueger and all this stuff, and they actually start to get the actors and the actresses in the film start to get killed off by like a real version of Freddy Krueger. It's kind of weird to explain, but he took it in a whole new direction where Freddy could actually be a little bit scary again, and they redesigned the makeup and everything, and it was a really good makeup job. I like this one more than Part 5, but I still think the first 4 are like the classics in the series. I don't think that it was as great or like a return to everything as everybody says. And I don't include Freddy vs. Jason in this because that's not really like a part of the franchise to me. It could be either one of the franchises. So it really ends with A New Nightmare. I think the next time that I do this, I'm going to do the Friday the 13th one the next time, and then I may do, like, down the road some of the other ones that people might not expect, and I won't give anything away. But I hope you like this one. I hope it wasn't too long, kind of going down like a walk down memory lane for me. But that was a Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and I'll try to do another one of these on Diary of the Deadpit. Check out our show. We got some huge announcements to make about the new Friday the 13th show. Got the fan commentary up this week, and there'll be. We recorded. It was really, really good. I was amazed that it turned out as well. It did a lot of good stuff for Friday 5 on that, or Friday 5 for the original Friday the 13th. I don't know what the hell I'm thinking. Like, I keep thinking that we did Friday 5 commentary. We already did a Friday the 13th for 5 commentary. So if you want to check that out, you can go over to deadpit.com and check that one out too. But we got a new Friday the 13th commentary up. So the original Friday the 13th. So check that one out, and I'll talk to you later.